I was very much moved by this INFP who's married to an INFJ, and he seems to be well versed on the MBTI. And it was comforting, so I wanted to capture this for myself in a relationship with an ISFJ. What are the differences between INFJ and ISFJ? I want to add another angle on this question regarding the differences between the ISFJ and INFJ. I've been married to an INFJ for 11 years and have worked with an ISFJ for about 8 years and teach typology classes. There are many really good answers here already, so I won't repeat the high value that's already been established. Bear with me for the functional analysis. It leads to some interesting results. According to John Beebe, the order of the 8 function for an ISFJ is SI, FE, TI, NE, SE, FI, TE, NI. For an INFJ, the deciding functions FI, FE, TI, FI, TE are the same positions, but the perceiving functions are in reverse order. NI, FE, TI, SC, NE, FI, TE, SI. I made a screenshot so you can see it all laid out in columns. I will explain the demonic language further down. With this type of functional dynamic, you can get a really strong what the fuck factor. WTF factor. Meaning that you think this person is your best friend, soulmate, and everything's fine, and then it can suddenly be like, whoa, where are you coming from? The way the two types operate externally is wonderfully similar, especially with match auxiliary FE functions. Their primary perceiving functions are very similar in how they process. For example, SI and NI are both introverted, convergent, seek depth, and take cues from internal sources. They are both perceiving functions that are almost like deciding functions because they tend to perceive solutions in a complete kind of way. When first in the functional stack, they both create that J personality, which drives more toward completion than exploration of process. However, the ways they perceive solutions are dramatically different. Much of this has already been explained really well here. NI is future focused, while SI is focused on the past. NI is quite individual, while SI is very collectively focused. NI is imaginative, while SI is concrete. But one big reason for the WTF factor is that NI is primary for INFJs, dead last, 8th for the ISFJ, meaning that what is primary in the INFJ awareness is pretty much clueless for the ISFJ. The opposite is also true. The ISFJ's primary SI is dead last 8th for the INFJ. Since the two functions do have similarities, many people seem to believe that their primary function does the job for the 8th, so the 8th is not needed. This renders the people who lead with the 8th function as superfluous. It always feels really, really bad when someone sees you as superfluous. For most people, when you describe their 8th function, they say something like, "What was that again?" This is what my wife says when I describe SI to her. This is what I said for the first few years I read about my 8th, which happens to be TI. I'm an INFP. Doesn't my primary FI kind of do TI too? I believe that common misunderstanding is why B labels the 8th function as demonic. It's often that part of you that your conscious ego forgets about and therefore betrays, and therefore it is pissed off. Imagine being the last of 8 children and your parents tend to forget your existence. It's kind of like that. So when you bring an INFJ and an INSFJ together, they might just put each other in touch with the very darkest part of their unconscious personality, which can get really interesting. The auxiliary function, as we know, for both types is FE. One big attribute of FE is that it focuses on how we do things in terms of social interactions. It's a very group conscious function. FE is normally not shy about letting others know how they should behave. For an INFJ, FE is subordinate to their own intuition. In other words, the INFJ makes up the rules, usually freely discarding any rule that doesn't seem appropriate to the situation. For an ISFJ, FE is subordinate to the SI rules, which have already been established by people who have the official authority to do so. To see an INFJ break with the official rulebook will look downright sacrilegious to an ISFJ. The INFJs were probably the witches in the Salem witch trials, and the ISFJs were most likely the ones most in favor of doing them in. Big difference. For the INFJ, their intuitions for how we should do things are obvious reality. They are plain as day. It is often baffling that others don't get with the program. How could the ISFJ not see it the same way? For the NI user, the traditional nature of SI often seems, well, stupid or quaint. They might be asking, why can't those ISFJs think for themselves? This type of attitude will, of course, be much appreciated by the ISFJ, who generally lives by the wisdom of the tried and true. The ISFJ and the INFJ might be telling each other, you just don't get it, baffled by how they once thought they had so much in common. But if each type can unearth and appreciate their respective 8th functions and see how those 8th functions are actually incredibly helpful in their own ways, then the INFJ-ISFJ relationship can be pretty awesome. They can help each other make the broadest possible functional leap and add an incredible sense of wholeness to each other's lives. This is the daimonic or salvational part of the demon-daemon function. Together, SI and NI complete what Babe calls the religious attitude. This is because religions need both the seeing power of NI and the grounded practitioner nature of SI. As you may have noticed, functions 4 and 5 have a similar demonic relationship for the ISFJ and INFJ combination, as do the 1st and 8th. This presents another opportunity for the types to misunderstand each other, but also to save each other